What's up, everybody? Unlimited from the ground up into space. I've been in a crapshoot, and it's been a long time. It's been too long. And today, I'm gonna go over one of my favorite leaders from the new set and one of my favorite decks to play, which is the new Thrawn with Data Vault. Thrawn was really interesting. I started out with red to try to get a lot of extra burn damage, and then moved to green and found I was running a lot of 2-ofs with Thrawn green. And did the math. I'm not going to get into the math now, but when I was running mostly 2-ofs with a 50 card deck, I was actually less consistent than running them all as 3-ofs in a 60 card deck. So that's how we ended up with Thrawn Data Vault. So I will share the deal and we will get started. Like normal, got an agenda. We're going to do an overview, talk about the leader a little bit, the general game plan, some of the payoffs, some ways we can self-enable, general play lines, and our sideboard. So here's a general overlook of the deck. 2 copies of Apology Accepted is one of our enablers. 3 copies of Desperate Commando. It's a 2/2, but when defeated, you can give another unit -1/-1 for the phase, and with Thrawn, we can make it a -2/-2. Nick is really good, and he really makes this deck much better. 2 cost 2/2 is shielded, and the first unit you play that has a when defeated ability costs 1 less, so it gives us some economy. 3 Inferno 4, 3 Onyx Brute, 3 Pike Sentinels, 3 copies of Val, 3 Cobb Vanth, 3 Landing Shuttles, 3 Super Laser Techs, 3 Power of the Dark Side, 3 Resupply, 2 Takedown, 3 No Glory Only Results, 3 Overwhelming Barrage, 3 CR90 Relief Runner, 3 Chimeras, new Chimera, 6 drop, 3 copies of Maul, 2 Snokes, 3 Avengers, 2 Devastators, and 1 Annihilator. So I'll talk about some of these here. So the deck originally, as I built it, had a hard time dealing with like Sabine and aggro. So I've adjusted the main deck to function better against aggro and like the field in general. And then the sideboard is a way to really handle the other control decks. So that's why like Apology Accepted and Vow can like buff a shielded Krennic to like an 8/9. And that's really hard for aggro decks to handle. And that's why we have 3 Pike Sentinels. That's what the takedowns are for. They're ways to help deal with the aggro matchup. The 1 Annihilator in the main deck is really because I don't have a 3rd Old Devastator. I only have 2. So, but the 1 of Annihilator, it gets resourced if you see it early. If you see it late game, it's usually worth hanging on to if you're getting into those games against Kira Data Vault and some of those other newer control decks. Annihilator, ripping like 6 Devastators out of the discard pile is pretty brutal. So the 1 Annihilator has been okay. At times, if I see it early, it just gets resourced, but if I see it late, I usually hold on to it. So the leader himself, the new Thrawn, when you use a when defeated ability, you can exhaust him and do it again, and he deploys on 6 and he's a 4/7. So on the deploy turn, if you drop a Chimera, it's possible, though rare, to get 4 triggers off the same unit. So you can Chimera lets you use a when defeated ability on a unit in play. You can trigger it again with Thrawn. Then you can deploy Thrawn. And then if you would swing with that unit, get the trigger, and then use Thrawn and get the trigger again. So the general game plan is pretty simple. We want to gain extra value by playing units with when defeated effects, and we're going to get extra value more than our opponents by being able to trigger those effects twice with the Thrawn ability. That's the general game plan. Play stuff with when defeated abilities. If you're playing against a control deck, they're playing right into our game plan because we're going to trigger those when defeated effects. We're going to draw cards. We're going to heal. We're going to go wide with Cobb Vanth and get units. We're going to buff units with Val. Win the game. That's what we do. Kind of early. You're just, especially in aggro, you're trying to hang on long enough till you can, on the deploy turn, if you're still alive and you got some health, you're probably going to win that game because at that point, they're not going to be able to come back. But that's a general game plan. Play lots of cool stuff with when defeated abilities, stall a little bit, and then turn the corner. It's a control deck. So here's the cards that we're getting payoffs out of. So Val, Vow I didn't have in at first. It was a little risky since the bounty lets your opponent deal 3 to something. The key with Vow is to self-trigger whenever possible. But when defeated, you can give 2 experience tokens to a friendly unit. So with Thrawn, you're giving 4 experience tokens to a unit. Inferno 4 obviously lets us filter. The CR90 lets us heal damage, and it has Restore 2. Cobb Vanth lets us search the deck for 2-cost units, and we can put them on our discard pile. And then we can play them for free from a discard pile. So we have a lot of good targets. We have Vow, Inferno 4, the Desperate Commando. We have the Pike Sentinels, the Brutes. So we have lots of targets for Cobb Vanth. Then he allows us to actually go really wide, which normally you wouldn't think this deck is going to be able to do. Then the Brute lets us heal, the Landing Shuttle lets us draw, and the Desperate Commando gives us some sneaky ways to finish off units. So those are the cards we're getting the payoffs from Thrawn with, and we're doubling up on. We got 3 ways that we can self-enable, basically. So Apology Accepted lets us defeat a friendly unit and then give it 2 experience tokens to unit. So if you Apology Accepted Vow, you can choose the order of the triggers. So you can Apology Accepted on Vow and then give something 6 experience tokens. And then your opponent gets to choose something to deal 3 damage to from the bounty. No glory only results. I'm calling a self-enabler, but it's also removal. Really, it's good against everything. But we want to trigger, ideally, like Ruthless Raiders, stuff that has when defeated effects that we can take advantage of. It's also a great way to get rid of stuff like a Millennium Falcon with a Chewbacca pilot on it that you can't take removal of because we take control of it, so then it's a friendly unit and then defeat it. So it's a way to deal with problem cards, and it's also a way to enable stuff. And in a pinch, you can get like a double Ruthless Raider off your opponent's card. So, and then the Chimera lets us trigger when defeated on another friendly unit in play, and then it has its own when defeated effect of creating ties. The ties aren't super relevant, but the ability to trigger an extra when defeated effect or 2 is. So the general play lines in aggro is we want to play Pike Sentinel early, and often we want to play Apology Accepted on Vow to buff like Krennic or a Pike Sentinel, and we want to use takedowns. Get Sabine off the board before she can get a lightsaber is the general way to win. And then when they play the Poe Wreckers, we can usually deal with them. But Sabine with a lightsaber is a menace. So mid-range, they generally want to trade units. So that works into our game plan because they can trade into our units, and we're just going to gain lots of advantages, whether it's board with Cobb Vanth and Desperate Commando, whether it's on card draw. Yeah, that's a good one for us. And then we are the ultimate anti-control control deck. It's honestly the best matchup. Most control decks definitely feed into our game plan because they want to play removal and they want to go slow and turn the corner, but we're doing the same thing, but we're getting extra value because we're drawing more cards. We are playing more units of Cobb Vanth. We're doing more healing. So really this is like a super anti-control control deck. And then the sideboard plan, general sideboard plan is just put this stuff in for the control matchup. Vigilance, sometimes you can put in mid-range. Super Laser Blast you can too if it's a slower mid-range deck that you're having a trouble keeping up on the board. Super Laser Blast, Palp's Return, Dr. Pershing obviously gives you more card draw and Annihilator. So looking at the deck again, really, we're just trying to generate a lot of extra value, more value than our opponents by drawing more cards. And another note I'll make on Data Vault is I've been messing with like Han Data Vault, Boss Data Vault, and Thrawn Data Vault. And I think if you're running a bunch of 2-ofs in anything that's like a green base, if you're running a bunch of 2-ofs, you're making yourself less consistent. I think you bump those 2-ofs to 3-ofs and just go to Data Vault. You're not really going to notice a difference in consistency. But I do think if you are running Data Vault, you either want to have some way to filter, a way to tutor, or a way to card draw so you can minimize the increased deck size even more. And we have all 3 here because we have filtering with Inferno 4, we have card draw with a Landing Shuttle, we have tutoring with Cobb Vanth. So we have all that stuff, and then we have a really good end game with Mauls. I was playing Vaders, but I wasn't. There's not a lot of great targets besides like in the ties. So, and sometimes like Anakin Colossus could be a problem. A Quinlan Voss with the discard can give you a hard time sometimes. So the Maul having the 7 attack ambush is a way to deal with some of those problems. 7 health leaders has been really clutch. Yeah. So shout out to, I think it's Twillig in the community Discord and the JTL Thrawn thread. That was 100% the right move. Good call out by him. And then we got the 2 Snokes, then the 3 Avengers, the Devastators. Like we have such a good top end, and other decks are running a similar top end, but we're just gaining way extra value, and we're more consistently seeing them because of the card draw and the tutoring and the filtering. And then, yeah, we're winning because we're gaining more value than our opponent. So that's it. I've been trying to make these deck profiles short and sweet. Just get through it and get to it. So when you guys get the general idea, go out, build it, have some fun, and yeah, we'll see you in the arenas.